Well, let's get more now on the net zero debate. Jude Blik is a senior policy analyst with the Centre for Independent Studies, and he joins me now in the studio. Jude, good to see you.
Thanks
very much for joining me on the show. Look, as I just mentioned there, I mean, the coalition is really dilly-dallying on this. Labor's got us on a renewables-only magic carpet ride. You're an expert in this field. What should the coalition do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty clear, to be honest. The coalition should ditch net zero, absolutely. There's two reasons for that in my view. First is the principle. I mean, net zero is built on a fundamental lie, which is that we can save the world and we can do it for free. And of course, that's built on the lie of wind and solar being the cheapest form of power, which is just very clear now that it isn't. And the second is actually politics. I mean, I think the political winds are blowing in the coalition's favour here. It's 2.5 years until the next election. That's 2.5 years of time for people to figure out that the energy transition is not going smoothly. Bad news will come and more bad news. And I think there's a strong opportunity for the coalition to take a strong position early. People are going to come to them, and that's going to be huge in terms of building trust.
I agree. And I mean, in the end, voters should have a clear-cut decision. And bear in mind, the coalition took net zero 2050 to the last two elections and they still lost. So there needs to be some differentiation.
Absolutely.
But I have to ask you, in your view, I mean, there's been figures thrown up, but how much do you think it's going to actually cost us to get to net zero 2050? Yeah,
there's all kinds of different ways you can calculate this, right? I think the easiest way for me is if you look at the core government planning document, the integrated system plan. It tells you of all the future plans for the electricity grid in particular. And in there, it's very clear we're going to triple the amount of transmission infrastructure on the grid, and we're going to quadruple the amount of generation infrastructure. So triple and quadruple, all to produce the same amount of power as we have been this whole time. In fact, probably less because we're closing industry. So heaps more cost onto the grid, same amount of power. I don't see any way we're going to get out of this without tripling bills, to be honest. And we might not pay all of that through our bills. There's going to be government subsidies. We might pay that through taxes instead, or not us, maybe our children or our grandchildren will pay that. But yeah, I don't see any way without a tripling of bills. It's going to cost an exorbitant amount. And that's just the electricity section of net zero. I mean, that's only 35% of our society's emissions. So how on earth we're going to get around to the other 65% is a huge question mark.
Well, we're already paying through the roof as it is, so it's going to get worse. Now, look, let's talk about the latest CPI data. Household electricity costs have grown by 23.6% in the past 12 months. The real cost of electricity grew 9% over the September quarter, on top of a rise of an 8.1% in the June quarter. But Chris Bowen's saying it's all progress.
It is no coincidence that the quarterly report, which showed a 38% reduction in wholesale prices, also shows the highest renewable penetration for that quarter in Australian history, Mr Speaker. This is the sign of progress.
Well, Jude, look, I don't know what planet the minister is on here, but it was always going to happen, wasn't it? When government subsidies, and across the country we've seen it as well, they start petering out, consumers were always going to reap the costs. Bowen says it's progress. What do you think?
Well, it's no surprise that the subsidies have rolled out and we've started to see the CPI rise. I mean, it was always a political strategy anyway to hide the costs from the Australian people until after the election. Yeah, and this progress stuff from Bowen, it's beginning to sound a bit Orwellian, isn't it? I mean, we've heard that word already on the show, but yeah, this notion that you can just call something progress and just expect people to believe it, it's absolutely false. This is not progress at all. It's taking our country backwards. And, you know, I'm just reminded of other eras in world history where we've made colossal mistakes and called them progress. You think of Mao's Great Leap Forward, which is a massive industrial shift. And you can call something progress, but I'll believe it when I actually see it, not just by the word. So
yeah, and we're not seeing that progress.
Absolutely.
We're definitely not. When you look at your power bills every quarter, you're not seeing progress, are you? Now, Jude, let's talk about the Tomago aluminium smelter. High energy prices and a lack of renewable supply are threatening to shut it by 2028. Former New South Wales Minister and now head of the Climate Change Authority, Matt Keane, stood at that site in 2021, claiming renewable energy would help the Hunter remain the powerhouse of New South Wales. Have a listen.
I'm here with the rockstar politician himself, the Parliamentary Secretary for the Hunter, to announce that we're opening expressions of interest for the Hunter Central Coast Renewable Energy Zone. Are you excited about this, Taylor?
Matt, this is a great day for jobs across the Hunter. There are 1,800 jobs here at Tomago Aluminium Smelter alone, a huge employer, but our renewable energy zone policy is going to underpin reliable, secure and cheap electricity for generations to come.
Well, Jude, now more than 1,000 jobs could go in the next few years. Is this another example of an Australian manufacturer that is going broke because of the renewables-only fantasy?
Absolutely. It's not just another example. It should be the example, right? I mean, that quote from Keane aged horribly.
Yeah.
It's incredible to see the dissonance there. And I think if this isn't the example, I mean, what are we waiting for? What other canary in the coal mine has to fall over for us to say, oh, maybe we've gone a bit too far here on this net zero thing? You know, we've had Andrew Hastie come out recently and express his I guess the appetite for Australia to be the renewable, not renewable, but for Australia to be good at making stuff, not just a nation of
like manufacturing,
flat white makers, in his opinion. If we don't get energy right, energy is the core of this. I mean, we've got to decide what kind of a nation we want to be. So, it's absolutely fundamental. It's so important.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's a shame what's going on in the Hunter. Jude Blik, great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for coming on. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Danica.
it. Nice
Cheers.
to meet you. Thank you.